I fell in love with this piece actually hearing it on the radio. It was one of those you tune in after the front announcement, and I was gripped by this. It's very linked thematically, so I could tell it was one big long piece, although it seemed to be in sections. And so I waited till it was over, and the back announcement, Franz Schmidt, Symphony No. 4. Did a little digging, discovered that some of my colleagues had been already performing it and recording it and going around with it, so I just thought, I'm going to add this to my repertoire. And the first place I did it was actually in Vienna. Now, Franz Schmidt, in his lifetime, was Austrian, but he was as famous in Austria as Anton Bruckner. He was huge. And such is the irony of history that 70-odd years, 80-odd years later, he's a footnote, a forgotten name. It's just one of those things. It's very hard to explain, but the important thing to realize as we look at his music and him as a person is he was very, very important and very famous in his time. Now, he started his life as a cellist. He was actually a de facto principal cello of the Vienna Philharmonic and Vienna State Opera from the tender age of 22. So he was very gifted. Equally gifted as a pianist, studied with Theodore Leczetitsky, who was a legend of the 19th century. It's basically, if one thinks of a requiem without voices. So the symphony orchestra fulfills this role of requiem in an astonishing way. The piece starts and ends with a solo trumpet call, which, symbolically is, Schmidt feels is the last sound one hears. Earthly sound one hears in the ascent. And there's 4 sections. The second section is the proper funeral march, but with the most gorgeous solo cello part. And the obvious kinship with the cello is clear from the little bit of biography I've given you. Third movement is the only fast music out of the 46 minutes, about 7 minutes long. It's a scherzo that reaches finally a climax that can completely crashes and burns. It's like this extraordinary, we've been listening to this bouncy music, it almost sounds like Holst, British sort of fun, folksy music, and then suddenly like a car going out of control, hitting a wall and just bursting into flames. The whole thing dissolves, and we wind up with a 4th movement that is essentially a replication of the first movement. So we get this sort of arch form, this absolutely symmetrical situation. So life begins and life ends, and it's just an amazing work. And I'm interested to see how the citizens of Dallas react to it, because it is heavy going. It's not as we would jokingly say, a toe tapper, but it's deeply beautiful. It's very romantic music. It's not there are few moments of dissonance, but Schmidt, and I think maybe the reason why he's coming back is stylistically, we as a country have embraced in recent times contemporary music that's much more tonal than it was the fashion to do in the 50s and 60s and 70s. So tonality is no longer a curse word in classical music, and this piece certainly fulfills that. It's very much late romantic in the style of Reger or Strauss, Richard Strauss. But you also definitely hear hints of Schmidt's teacher throughout Anton Bruckner. So there's a whole bunch of it. But anyway, I'm very excited to be conducting the Dallas premiere of this work. And I think the orchestra's actually enjoyed learning a new piece as well.
So this is a piece that, if the listener knows just a little bit of the background, they can make their own connections about personal loss.
Exactly.
Can you help them do that as a conductor?
Well, I try. I'm going to certainly talk about it from the stage, which I think is important because there are certain composers where knowing a bit of autobiography, knowing a bit of their biography is important. Shostakovich, who was one of my heroes, as your listeners know only too well, during my time we did all the symphonies practically. You have to know what was going on in his life to appreciate what exactly it was he was trying to say, or then go beyond it. And it's the same in the case of this. If you do not know that this was a work written in requiem for your own child, as a memorial to your own child, you're not going to get the point, And the point is not one of the fast and slow speeds of life, but rather just of the life cycle as a whole, and how as this huge entity we appreciate what we have when we have it, and how unbelievably devastating it is when we don't anymore.